Good evening, everyone. It's an incredible schos, Baruch Hashem, to be here with all of you this evening for a variety of reasons. First of all, I think Avi and I have only known each other, for, I don't know how long. Avi, how long have we known each other for? Maybe a year? Maybe a year. We met the first time in person when Avi made the trip down to Baltimore for our Siyum Yavamas. And it made a tremendous roshem on me and a tremendous roshem on our chevra. And it was there that Avi presented me with probably what was one of the most beautiful gifts I've ever received, which was a handwritten summary of all of the ideas and moments in the shir that I had delivered some type of idea, meticulously arranged in a little gray fabric folder. And it was incredible. It was also an incredible Musar Haskell. It got me a little bit nervous because I could imagine that something similar is waiting for me after 120. When I see HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he's going to tell me, you spent this amount of time doing this amount of time doing that. And the accounting is going to be quite specific. But there are certain people you meet in this world. Let me say it differently. People create friendships over all kinds of things. People create friendships over shared sports teams, shared recreational events. People create relationships because they hail from the same geographic region. And those are all wonderful and beautiful and nice. But there is nothing purer in this world than a relationship that is forged in Torah. Only Torah. I don't know what baseball team Avi likes, or what football team he roots for, or what he enjoys doing in his free time. But I know that we have a shared love of the Ribono Shel Olam's Torah. And that is the basis of the entirety of our friendship. So Avi, I want to tell you again that I love you. And I appreciate having you in my life. And I appreciate knowing that there's someone else who I'm learning with, even though at a geographic distance. It warms my heart because the beauty of Torah, we'll talk about this more in just a moment, but the beauty of Torah in general is the power for it to be a koach hama'achid, an incredible glue, something that brings the fabric of Klal Yisrael together. A Jew from Baltimore and a Jew from Edison, New Jersey, steiging over the same Blat Gemara, something incredible. So, Avi, I want to thank you for your friendship. And I want to thank you for the love that I feel coming through every single one of our interactions. And please know that our tefillos are with Josh and with every single one of the precious soldiers of the Israel Defense Forces. I also want to recognize and say, Birshus Yemar Dasar Melitsky. I just have to tell you something. This Kehila, you hit the jackpot. You absolutely hit the jackpot. I now count myself amongst the cadre of older Rabbanim. So whenever I see new, younger, emerging Rabbanim with excitement, that excitement that says, I'm going to give 27,000 shiurim, and I'm going to be there for every single person, and be there, and like when you get a little bit older and cynical, you're like, sure. But you don't say that, because that youthful exuberance and that excitement that your Rav has, I can tell you, he has one mission and one mission only, which is to infuse as much spirituality, to infuse as much ruchnius, to infuse as much dveikus as all of you are willing to receive. So the more you open your hearts to him, the more he will be able to give you. And I give your Rav a tremendous bracha, berchos hadyot, that Rabbi Melisky, you should be zochem Yirtzeh Hashem to lead this kil. You have hard shoes to fill, Rabbi Luban. Again, I remember Rabbi Luban from my days in RPRY. I think he shushed me too, actually. But you have very large shoes to fill. Baruch Hu should give you and your mishpacha incredible siyata d'shmaya, oz, chachma, gvura, bina, and das, to take this kehila higher and higher. You should be a source of nachas to them. They should be a source of nachas to you. And amidst Hashem, this entire kehila kedosha should be a source of nachas to the Ribono Shel Olam. I also want to say how nice it is that my parents came from East Brunswick, New Jersey, to be here with us tonight. And my brother, who I know, my brother is the local celebrity here, Vedov Silver Baruch Hashem, and my nephew Maishi, who's here as well. And how wonderful it is. It's always very special to come back to Edison. I've always got to see a couple of faces, Baruch Hashem, from my youth, from my earlier years. And it's beautiful because the truth is, I remember what this community was. And now you come back here and Baruch Hashem, it's booming and it's flourishing and it's exciting. And to see that list of people who are going ahead and finishing Seder Nashim, it's absolutely incredible. It's absolutely incredible. But halavai, Emirat Hashem, by the time we get to Mesachas Nazikin, that list should Emirat Hashem be tripled. For a community this size, one side of a page is not enough. It's got to be multiple pages. Oh, we live in a generation where Torah is accessible. Where you have a background, you don't have a background, you can read Hebrew, you can't read Hebrew, it doesn't make a difference. Whatever level you are on, whatever your skill set is or is not, Torah is accessible to all of us, and we have to take advantage. Where else could it be? I mentioned this, I was able to participate in the Daf Yomi Siyum in Ramat Beit Shemesh just this past Wednesday night, actually in Rabbi Rosner's Kehillah. And I told over the story that there was a man in my Kehillah, Saibeik, man in my Kehillah who never learned before in his life for a variety of different circumstances. And then at the age of 71, decided that he was going to go ahead and start the Daf Yomi. At the age of 79, 80, he made a Siyum Hashas. And at 80 and a half, he passed away. And I thought, the Gemara says, Yishkan alon b'sha'achas. There are some people who acquire the entire meaning of life in a moment. There are some people who it takes a couple of months. There are some people who are able to redeem an entire life in 7.5 years. So if a man with no background could decide at the age of 71 to begin to learn the Rebbe Shalom's Torah, then Allah has kama v'kama, all the more so the ability and the opportunity we have. Torah is sweet. Torah is beautiful. Torah as Hashem temima meshivas nafesh. There is nothing better in this world than a beautiful blot of Gemara. And it's there waiting for you. Whatever language you want, whatever medium you want, whatever time you want. You could even control the speed that you listen. I hear this from many people at my shir. They said, Rabbi Silver, we love listening to your shir at 1.5 speed. Fantastic. 1.5, 2.5. Whatever it is, it doesn't make a difference. It doesn't make a difference. But jump in. And I want to thank my dear Javier from Baltimore who made the road trip with me today. Baruch Hashem to be here. I like this kehillah, I am ridiculously privileged. I say Miliski after Paja saying this, I have the most incredible kehillah in the world. I have the most incredible kehillah in the world. Maybe you have second. But Baruch Hashem, I feel incredibly privileged to really have struck the jackpot with my beautiful kehillah, Baruch Hashem. And I don't have balabatim, I only have chavirim. I only have wonderful and close friends. And that is a personal schus. Some of them are here with me today. And Chavra, thank you so much for joining me on this beautiful spiritual journey. So I want to share with you a short idea. I know that there's still a Siyum Emirat Hashem. But I think it's important to recognize that this Siyum is not happening in a vacuum. And this Siyum is happening in the backdrop of a war. And it's not just a war that's happening 6,000 miles away. It's a war of Am Yisrael. Am Yisrael in Eretz Yisrael and Am Yisrael in diaspora as well. We see what our brothers and sisters have to contend with in the state of Israel. And we see the resurgence of anti-Semitism, overwhelming anti-Semitism, here, right in our own backyards. And so we hope that Emirat Hashem, in the merit of this Siyum, in the merit of our Talmud Torah, HaKadosh Baruch Hu should watch over each and every one of our holy soldiers, most beautiful and precious neshamas who are willing to be Mosar Nefesh for Am Yisrael and for Eretz Yisrael. In the schus of our Talmud Torah, HaKadosh Baruch Hu should allow them to be successful in all of their missions, and Emirat Hashem come back to their families, b'shalom and b'karov. HaKadosh Baruch Hu should give our brothers and sisters in Eretz Yisrael the incredible amount of chizuk that they need to weather these difficult days, to overcome these incredible challenges. And halavai, we should be Zocha Emirat Hashem that our next Siyum will not be here in the beautiful social hall of OT, but halavai, our next Siyum Emirat Hashem will be in Yerushalayim Habenuya. Our next Siyum Emirat Hashem be with all of the Am Yisrael together. Our next Siyum Emirat Hashem will be with the Melech HaMashiach, all of us gathered together in the shade of the walls of the third Beis HaMikdash. Here, Rabbi Ameinu. Amen. There's an incredible last line in the Gemara. And I know that the Messiah is going to be speaking on this same Gemara as well. So I'm going to try to take a little bit of a different direction. The Gemara talks about professions and specifically discusses Rabbi Norai. Rabbi Norai says, this is the last few lines of the Gemara. Maniach ani kol umno sheba olam I would go ahead and set aside all professions in the world. Ve'eni melamed es bini ela Torah. And I would just go ahead and teach my son Torah. Why? What's the mile of Torah over every other profession? Shekol umma sheba'olam ein omdos el bimei yaldusav, aval bimei ziknusa harihu mutal bara'av. You know, there's something interesting at your profession, about professions in general. No matter what your profession is, it only serves you as long as what? As long as what? You could do it. In other words, you could be a world-renowned physician, and that's fantastic. As long as you either have the physical abilities, the physical skill and agility, or the mental acumen to execute the dictates of your profession. But someone could be a world-renowned physician, and either, again, Rahman al-Litzlan, they don't have the cognitive abilities, they don't have the physical abilities, and years of an incredibly successful and meaningful profession are gone. And you could plug that into anything, any profession. Rabbi Norai says, your profession in this world only serves you as long as you have the ability to execute. In your old age, if you can't work, right, then ultimately, again, you could suffer famine. You know, as an aside, you know where you see this a lot? You see this when people retire. It's a fascinating thing to see people when they retire. Right? Some people retire and they look like lost children, like wandering around, wondering, what should I do in life? Because a career, especially a meaningful one, is not just something you do for a paycheck, but it defines your existence. And suddenly when that's gone, so what do I do? What do I do? So Rabbi Noah says about Torah, ain't okay. Torah is not like this. Rather, omedes lo la'adam be'es yalduso, Torah stands by your side when you are young. V'nosenos lo acharis v'tikva be'es ziknuso. Now listen to these words, Rabbi Norai says. And Torah gives you acharis. How would you define acharis? Acharis? A future. Torah gives you a future, v'tikva, and hope in your old age. What a fascinating statement. And then Rabbi Norai goes on to go ahead and quote Psukim. So Torah stands by your side when you're young. I understand that. When a person learns Torah, whatever Torah you're going to learn, Daf Yomi, Amid Yomi, Nach Yomi, Rambam Yomi, whatever you're learning, right? Shtayim Mikra, whatever you're learning in life, Torah stands by your side. Torah holds you up. Torah supports you. I understand that. Especially when you're young and easily swayed, and sometimes even easily corruptible. Torah keeps you honest. Torah keeps you on the straight path. But what does it mean when it says that in your old age, no senes lo achris v'tikva? Torah gives you literally a future and hope. What does that mean? Torah gives you a future and hope. So maybe Pasha Pshat, simple idea is referring to the world to come. That whatever Torah you learn in this world, you have in this world, you have in the world to come. That's possible. But perhaps it can mean something else as well. Now, I quoted a couple of weeks ago on Shabbos in my shul. There's an incredible Arizal. The Ari HaKadosh brings down in the Shar HaGilgulim. Let's get do Chassidus here, or no? A little bit? Okay. All right. You can make a L'chaim beforehand if you need it. We're going to do a little. So the Ari HaKadosh brings down the Shar HaGilgulim something amazing. He says he's actually commenting on the name change of Avram Avinu. That Avram's name is changed, we know, from Avram to Avraham. And of course, the name is quite significant. Avram, Avaram, represented a man who would have an impact on a limited geographic area. Avraham, Av Hamon Goyim, a father of multitude of nations, a dramatic, amplified impact. And the Ari says, listen to this. The Ari writes that a person has two names. The first name they're given is the name your parents give you when you're born. And the Ari quotes the idea that parents are given a degree of Ruach HaKodesh, a degree of prophecy when they name their child. Because as the Gemara says, Minalam Deshma Garam, a name captures the entire essence of a person. So how do you give your child, who you might only know for a little bit of time, right? A boy maybe 8 days, a girl could be just even a couple of hours, so you give her a name. So how is a parent supposed to give a name to a child that captures the totality of that child's essence? And the Ari explains very simply, but yet very profoundly, divine assistance. HaKadosh Baruch Hu helps the parent give them the name. And that name, your birth name, is the name that captures the totality of who you are, the greatness you possess, the kochos you have, the abilities which reside inside you. But then the Ari says there's another name. Listen to this. What he calls the Shem HaShavar, or the Shem HaShvira. It's your broken name. Your broken name is the name that describes all of the things which are broken and in a state of disrepair inside of you. And each of us have it. We have things that are broken. We have things that are demolished. And some of us have things that have been in a state of disrepair for a very long time. And some of that disrepair maybe was caused by others. And some of that disrepair maybe was caused by bad decisions and wrong turns in life. But we all have that broken name. So the Ari goes on and he says, the entire essence of life is not to focus on your birth name. He says the entire essence of life is to focus on your broken name. On your broken name. To identify what's broken inside of me and how could I fix it? What's misfiring and how could I repair it? What's going wrong and how could I put myself on the proper trajectory of life? A birth name which represents your kedusha, your holiness, and a broken name which represents everything that is in a state of disrepair and needs to be repaired. But the truth is there's a third name. What's the third name? Rabbi Yitzchak Zechusa Yogin Aleinu writes in the opening pasuk of this past week's parasha. Torah Kedosha says, Vayira Elav Hashem. The Ribono Shel Olam appeared to Avram Avinu. V'hu Yosef Pesach. Avram Avinu was sitting at the entrance of the tent, Kechom Hayom. And the question that everyone asks is, why isn't Avram Avinu's name mentioned? It should have said, Vayira Hashem El Avraham. But it doesn't, it just says Elav. And listen to what Rabbi Yitzchak says. The Rebbe says that sometimes in life, a person could do something so incredible. A person could accomplish something of such epic proportions that they outgrow their birth name. That they go ahead and they become someone different. Or in other words, perhaps what the Rebbe is telling us is there's a third name. The third name is your transcendent identity. There's a third name. So I have a broken name, which represents the stuff that's broken inside of me. I have a birth name, which represents the goodness, the kedusha that's inside of me. And I have a transcendent name, which represents the person I have the ability to become. Which represents the idea that I could be someone even greater than my most wild imagination. That I can accomplish things that the world can't even comprehend. That I could become someone so much greater than I am now. That's who Avram Avinu was. You want to hear something amazing? So Avram became Avraham. And after Avraham does the bris milah at such an advanced age, he outgrows his new name. So he has no name. Vayera Elav Hashem. There's no name. There's no name. Because Avram Avinu outgrew every single name. So there's a third identity, a transcendent identity. And how do we actualize that identity? Because dear friends, isn't that what we want? I know I have to find my broken name and I have to work on that. At my birth name, I have to discover who and what I am and what abilities I have. But boy, would I love to try to figure out how to tap into that transcendent name. How does that happen? How could that occur? How do we tap into transcendent identity? And I think that there are two answers. Answer number one, and by the way, just to illustrate transcendent identity, I think you see this a lot now in Eretz Yisrael. I'll tell you what I find amazing now about in Eretz Yisrael, which is, in Israel, it feels like everyone has what I call like a Superman identity. Right? You remember like Superman, right? Like he'd be walking around, and then, there's trouble, and he just like opens up his shirt. Right? I never saw the movie. My brother told me about it. Right? He's just walking around, right? And he just goes ahead and just like Superman, he's there. What's incredible, you see in Eretz Yisrael, I was working on a project with someone in Yerushalayim, and on Matzei Simchas Torah, I had an email from him saying, I'm not going to be available. I'm a commander, I'm a mefaked in the army. I'm going to be up north. I don't know when I'm able to speak to you again. 2 days ago, this guy was like a real estate tycoon, right? And now, he's someone totally different. He totally pivoted. New identity. And you see it not just in the army. You see it in every segment of the community, of the Jewish community. People have become different people. So you have again shopkeepers who have become now again, massive caterers. You have again restaurants in Tel Aviv that resisted hashgacha for years, that now have kashered their kitchens in order to provide for every social, because in the IDF the food has to be kosher. Transcendent identities. People becoming someone totally different, literally, in the course of a day. So how do we tap into that? So first thing is achdus. And I know that it's spoken about a lot. And I'm sure it strikes me, there feels like a vibe over here that this is a kehila of much incredible achdus. But the value of achdus can never be overstated. The value of being together. Ki ish echad belev echad. My Rebbe always says that when we stood by Har Sinai, the Torah says, Rashi describes our Sinaitic revelation, our Sinaitic experience, as literally ish echad belev echad, one people, one heart. It doesn't say ish echad b'deya echad. It doesn't say one people with one opinion. Do you know why it doesn't say one people with one opinion? Take a wild guess. Never happened and never will happen. You know what the great secret of our achdus is? We don't have to agree. Not only that, we could vehemently and vociferously disagree. But we could disagree agreeably. We could learn how to be biyachad. We could learn how to always go ahead and forge achdus together. I had the great zchus, Baruch Hashem, to speak in an incredible army base in the north of Eretz Yisrael, Tziporit, right by Tzomet Golani. And it's a very difficult base. It's a base that they just built now, where the IDF rabbinate is stationed in Ramla and there, where they have the overwhelming task of identifying bodies and making sure that they are properly prepared for Kvuras Yisrael. So speaking to a group of a few hundred soldiers, and also Rav Shmuel Eliyahu was there, the chief rabbi of Tzfat. And I was saying to the Chavra, the scariest thing about when this war is over, what scares me most? I'm not scared about the outcome. Klal Yisrael will be victorious, because Klal Yisrael is always victorious. Ultimately, again, and we're on the side of good, we're on the side of light, we're on the side of Torah, the side of the Ribbon Shalom. The most scary thing is that when this war is over, do we retreat back to our own corners? And does the strife, does the negativity set back in? At this point, Rav Eliyahu took the microphone from me and he said, Al tidag, tihiyeh od milchama. He said, don't worry, there'll be another war. There'll be another war. So in a little bit of chutzpah, I took the microphone back. And I said, B'chvod harav, yesh li pitaron acher. I think maybe there's a different solution. Doesn't achdus feel great? Doesn't it just feel good to know that right in this moment, there is not one Jew you dislike? That there is not one member of amidst you're like, you know what? I don't want to talk with them. I don't want to deal with them. I can't sit next to them. I can't be involved with them. In this moment of Am Yisrael's history, we love each other. In this moment, I think it's correct to say, there's no sinas chinam. I'm excluding politicians right now. Right? There's no sinas chinam. There's no baseless hatred. There's no animosity. We are literally ish echad belev echad, and doesn't it feel incredible? And isn't it absolutely amazing? Do you want to know how you actualize your transcendent identity? When you are part of the Am. You see, when you're just an individual, the most you have is your birth name. That's what you got. That's you, your birth name. But when you're part of Klal Yisrael, when you're part of the family of Klal Yisrael, when you're part of the most magnificent nation in the world, you tap into a power so much stronger than just yourself. And that power of being part of the Klal gives you the ability to actualize your transcendent identity. But dear friends, please understand, achdus takes work. and achdus takes effort. And one day when the war is over, people won't feel the same level of lachatz. They won't feel the same urgency to put aside differences. Tap into the energy now. Create the relationships now. Forge the unity now. Set aside differences now. It doesn't matter. Nothing is worth strife within Klal Yisrael. Disagreements? Sure, no problem. Disagree about anything and everything. But you could love someone who you disagree with vehemently. So the first way in which we actualize our transcendent identity is through Achdus. The second way is through Torah. You know, I want to tell you something interesting. Something very interesting. You know, the Gemara quotes Rabbi Norai. You know, the Gemara in Meseches Eruvin, on Daf Yud Gimel Amud Beis, 13b, says, there is no Rabbi Norai. Do you know Rabbi Norai was? The Gemara says, Lo Rabbi Meir Shmo, El Rabbi Norai. Rabbi Norai is Rabbi Meir, which just as an aside creates a little bit of a problem in the Mishnah, because the Mishnah itself, last Mishnah, quotes Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Norai, and they're saying two separate things. Okay, I'll leave the lumdis for your Rav, right? Again, so Rabbi Norai is Rabbi Meir. So Chavi, you know who Rabbi Meir was, right? You know who Rabbi Meir was? You know that there was a man by the name of Elisha ben Avuya. And Elisha ben Avuya, again, without getting to all the details, has a traumatic theological episode or episodes in life. And that theological trauma leads Elisha ben Avuya, one of the ranking sages of Klal Yisrael, to repudiate anything and everything Judaic, and not just turn his back on Yiddishkeit, but actively try to uproot Yiddishkeit. And all of his rabbinic colleagues, remember, Elisha ben Avuya was the Gadol Hadar, one of the Gedolei Hadar. So it was a debacle. And everyone turned their back on Elisha ben Avuya, except for one person. One person. Who was it? Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Norai. And there's a moving story in Meseches Chagiga, Daf Tesvav Amud Aleph, Chagiga 15a. Listen to this story. One time Elisha ben Avuya is riding on his horse on Shabbos. Okay, so he's violating Shabbos publicly. So you have to imagine the scene. Elisha ben Avuya is riding his horse on Shabbos. Everyone knows who he is. He's a high-profile guy. And Rabbi Meir is walking behind the horse. He's walking step by step. And what is he doing? What are they doing? They're learning Torah together. Remember, again, Elisha ben Avuya was a repository of Torah. So ultimately, again, Rabbi Meir is trying to get whatever Torah he can out of his Rebbe. So what happens? Amar lo, Meir chazar la'acharecha. Elisha ben Avuya tells Rabbi Meir, says, Rabbi Meir, go back. Why? Shekvar shi'arti be'ikvei susi ad kan tchum Shabbos. Elisha ben Avuya is keeping count of the steps they're taking. He says, we're about to leave the tchum, about to leave the Shabbos boundary, so Meir, go back. What does Rabbi Meir say? Amar le, af ata chazar becha. Rabbi Meir says, Rabbi, come back with me. Come back with me. I'll go back into the tchum. Come back with me. Amar le v'lo kvar marti lecha. So Elisha ben Avuya says, I would come back with you, but I told you already. Kvar shamati me'achore hapargot shuvu banim shovevim chutz me'acher. Elisha ben Avuya says, I told you already. Every single day a divine voice emanates from on high that says, return all wayward children. It is the clarion call from the Ribono Shel Olam to come back and do tshuva. And Elisha ben Avuya says, every single day I hear that call, but it always says, chutz me'acher. I'm not invited back. I would come back, but I can't come back. Just parenthetically, Rabbi Soloveitchik Zechazadav Kolish Levracha writes in Al Tshuva, he says, what does that mean? Akash Baruch Hu was saying, chutz me'acher, God excluded Elisha ben Avuya? And Rabbi Soloveitchik writes, Chas v'shalom, he says, Richuko goram lishmoa zos. God never said chutz me'acher, because God never says chutz me anyone. No one is excluded from the gift of tshuva. But Elisha ben Avuya himself felt so alienated that he felt he was so broken that he was beyond salvation. He couldn't come back even if he wanted to. What was Rabbi Meir trying to tell his Rebbe? Rabbi Meir was trying to tell Elisha ben Avuya, Rebbe, you don't understand. You have the ability to change. You don't have to remain set in your negative ways. If you want to come back into the tchum, if you want to go ahead and lead a different kind of life, if you want to be a different kind of person, that ability is within reach. Why? Because you have Torah. However, do you know what the ultimate power of Torah is? What is Torah? Right, think about just a moment, right? Why do we learn Torah? And why such a focus on Torah? Okay, so simple answer is, well, I need to know what to do to lead a Judaic life. Fantastic. Truth is, you could just print something out from the internet, 613 mitzvahs, read through a whole list of do's and don'ts, and that's it. Why struggle over a piece of Gemara? Why work through a Chumash in Rashi? Why learn a parak in Navi? Why? Because the great koach of Torah is that Torah itself infuses you with the power to believe in your ability to change. Let me ask this question. Anyone do the parasha this week? Parashas Vayera? I'm not going to ask you questions, don't worry. Right, let me ask you this question. When you learned Parashas Vayera this year, did you have the same understanding of Parashas Vayera this year than you did of Parashas Vayera 5 years ago? No. Isn't it incredible? Isn't it incredible? And even if you've been learning the same Parashas, right, or it's just, there's like nothing really new that happens in the storyline of the Parashiyos, right? It's pretty much the same story. It's been now for a couple thousand years. So nothing new. And yet every single year there's something new. How is that? Every single year there's something new. Do you know why? Because the entire essence of Torah is transcendence. Torah gives us the fuel, the ability, it's the battery to affect personalistic change. Rabbi Meir was saying to Elisha ben Avuya, Rebbe, you have so much Torah. All you need to do is tap into it, come back into the tchum, and you have the ability to affect change. That, dear friends, is the power of Torah. You know, I think that this is often missed because I think a lot of times it's like, learn Torah, learn Torah, learn Torah, learn Torah. Great. Why? Because it's gishmak. Right, fantastic, right? Except most of us never felt it was gishmak until like 2 years ago, right? So I understand all those years I was learning Torah, it wasn't so gishmak because we missed like a little thing in the chinuch of ourselves and of our children, which is, do you know why you learn Torah? Because when a Jew learns Torah, there is divine energy pulsating through your body. It comes in through your eyes, it goes to your brain, it goes into your neshama, to your heart, and it literally pulsates throughout your entire body. And when your body is filled with that divine energy, you can become whoever you want to become. You could actualize that third level, transcendent identity. That's the power of Torah. And that's what Rabbi Meir was trying to tell Elisha ben Avuya. Rebbe, you have all of the Torah. Just tap into it. And you could affect dramatic personalistic change. And now we come full circle. I think this is what Rabbi Meir was saying. And Rabbi Meir said, Remember again, Rabbi Meir said, Rabbi Norah said, Torah is the most important thing. Why? It stands by your side when you're young, and it gives you, again, acharis, a future, and hope, be'ez ziknusa, when you're old. Chavra, what does it mean when you're old? The Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh says something absolutely amazing. In the pasuk in Tehillim, David HaMelech says, Al tashlicheni le'ez zikna. You know, that pasuk takes on a lot of meaning as we get older, or as some of us maybe are dealing with elderly parents. Right? Al tashlicheni le'ez zikna means Chesed Baruch Hu, don't cast me away when I'm older. Sometimes as a person gets older, they lose their abilities, they lose their faculties. Sometimes they can't even go out and take care of themselves, and they are at, literally again, the mercy of others. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, don't cast me away le'ez zikna. It doesn't even need a perish. But the Baal Shem Tov says something, he says, you know what zikna is? This is incredible. He says zikna is not biological age. He says a zokain is simply someone who becomes set in their ways and is unwilling to change. Al tashlicheni le'ez zikna means, Kadosh Baruch Hu, don't let me become one of those people. Anyone know a person like that? You're like, yeah, like sitting next to me. And something like that. Like, this is what I am. You know, love it or leave it. This is who I am. I've always been like this. This is my personality. You hear people do this like about midos. Like, I have a short fuse. And what are you doing about it? Right? In other words, like as if like it's okay to say I have bad midos. I anger easily. This is who I am. No, that's maybe how you were created. It is possible. Hashem Baruch creates us with certain predispositions, but then you've made a choice not to address it. Don't let me become a zakim. Don't let me become the kind of person who is so set in his or her ways that I refuse to see the ability to change. And that's what Rabbi Norai is saying. The greatness of Torah is nosenes lo acharis v'tikva be'es ziknuso. Torah gives me a future. Torah gives me hope and aspirational excitement that I don't have to remain the same person. That if I want to change, if I want to evolve, if I want to transcend, if I just want to become a better version of myself, I can do that. That, dear friends, is the power of Torah. Torah gives us the ability to avoid the clutches of zikna. Torah gives us the ability to avoid the clutches or the grasp of complacency. Torah allows us to actualize that third level, that transcendent identity, and even outgrow our own birth name and to become the best person we possibly could become. Rabbi Norai, Rabbi Meir, the same one who tried to convince Elisha ben Avuya that you could change, Rabbi, you could change. I know you're Elisha ben Avuya, and Elisha ben Avuya did some pretty bad stuff. But with all the bad stuff that you did, you could turn it around because you have the koach of Torah. V'nosenes lo achris v'tikva be'ez ziknuso. And I think that this is an important lesson any time, but certainly an important lesson for the times in which we're living in now. Because one thing is clear, which is that we are living in a time of dramatic change. Everything has changed. Everything has changed. Everything in our world has changed. Eretz Yisrael has changed. I mentioned on Shabbos that to me one of the most jarring things about my latest visit, when you go to Israel, if there's one thing that you could always count on, it's what we call Ga'ava Yisraelit. I don't know like the good English translation for it, but I guess it's like a good dose of Jewish arrogance, right? Like Ani Agever, I'm the man. And I'll tell you something amazing. It's not there now. Klal Yisrael is wounded. Am Yisrael is wounded. Eretz Yisrael is wounded. Standing, hopeful, optimistic, and will be successful. But it's wounded. Something's changed. Shmini Atzeres for us has forever changed. Everything has changed. Chevra, tell me, 3 weeks ago, did we not think that this was the second promised land? Did we not think that as citizens of this great country, that we were home, that we were welcomed, that we were accepted, that we were beloved? Well, less than an hour from my house yesterday, there were close to 100,000 people marching on the streets of our nation's capital with slogans like "Death to Israel," and from the river to the sea, and whatever other hatred they spew. We're going to have to figure out what to do with that. And we're going to have to figure out what that means for our trajectory and for our future. The world as we know it has changed. And if the world has changed, there is an incredible koach of change now in this universe. And we have the opportunity to tap into it in a positive way as well. We can become someone different. We can become different individuals, different communities. We could change who and what we are. We could actualize and seize that transcendent identity, and not just actualize our kohos, but actually become someone dramatically different, the person I always dreamed of becoming. That koach is in the world now. And all we need to do is utilize the power of Torah to tap into it. And I'll conclude just with a bracha for all of us. Because this is a Siyum Maseches Kiddushin, The minhag by a Siyum is you read the last few lines, but you also have to make reference to the beginning of the Masechta. So what did we learn in the beginning of the Masechta? Isha niknis begimel drachim. Marriage can be affected in 3 ways. Kesef, shtar, and bia. Kesef is money, shtar is a document, bia, intimacy. And the told us Yaakov Yosef, Panai, the Talmud Muvak of the Baal Shem Tov, says something so beautiful. He says, Ha'isha, that's a reference to Klal Yisrael. We're the wife. The Ribono Shel Olam is the husband. And there are 3 stages in our marriage to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Kesef. Kesef says that told us Yaakov Yosef refers to Yetzias Mitzrayim, Exodus from Egypt. When we left with Rechush Gadol, much money. Shtar refers to the rebuilding of the Second Temple under Ezra, where Ezra dispatched letters to all the diaspora communities, time to come home. And Bia refers to Bias Goel, refers ultimately again to the coming of Mashiach. We have been Zocha to Baruch Hashem experience the first 2 stages of our betrothal and holy matrimony to the Ribono Shel Olam. There's only 1 stage left. All we wait for is that last stage, that 3rd stage, the arrival of Mashiach. And halavai, if we each find the courage to tackle the broken identity, to live up to the birth identity, and to tap into the sea of change, to seize our transcendent identity, then halavai we will be Zocha amidst Hashem to live in a time where Klal Yisrael is successful in all of its initiatives and endeavors. We will be Zocha to live in a time where good will overcome evil. We'll be Zocha to live in a time amidst Hashem of Geula, of the Mashiach, and halavai we should be Zocha that our next Siyum shouldn't be in Highland Park, New Jersey, shouldn't be in Baltimore, Maryland, but halavai should be in the shade of the walls of the 3rd Beis HaMikdash in Hira B'Yameinu. Amen.